Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shuklambaradharam Vishnum, Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam, Prasannavadanam Dhyayet, Sarva Vignopashantaye. Today is the sixth session of Bhagavad Gita verse by verse. From all of us at the Param Vedanta team, a warm welcome. We offer our humble obeisance to our teachers and gurus for the teachings, for the margdarshan. A few words about grace. Grace of God is equal to all. This we must trust 100%. Even when the outcome of events is not going as good as expected, we must know that grace of God always exists. God has put us in the hole to prevent us from falling in a bigger trench. He is like a parent, not a shopkeeper. He gives us what is right for us at that time. Know that every person, situation, interaction is walking us home. Last week, we heard Krishna speak about discharging activities according to Swadharma. So, how does one decide what are his duties? Running an NGO for elderly needs, but refusing to look after our old parents is not exactly Swadharma. What we need is clarity and maturity of thought. Vyavasayatyatmika buddhi, a single pointed focus. Krishna brings light to what actions we must do or avoid, our attitude to those actions, and to the fruits of the action. Today, our five speakers will be covering the next 7 verses, which are on Karma Yoga from chapter 2. Again, chapter 2 is a preview of different topics covered in Bhagavad Gita. And since Karma Yoga is a very important topic, it will be further elaborated in the coming chapters 3, 4, and 5. Vani Bhaskar will be chanting these verses for us. But first, let's listen to last week's recap by Dr. Meenal. Dr. Meenal.
Namaste, everyone. I will give a recap of our previous class in which we have discussed verse numbers 31 to 40 of Bhagavad Gita's second chapter called as Sankhya Yoga. In the previous verses, Shri Krishna is attempting to remove Arjuna's grief or vishad and is trying to convince Arjuna that he must fight the war. He explains this to Arjuna at 3 levels: philosophical or the dharmic drushtya, philosophical or the adhyatmik drushtya, ethical or the dharmic drushtya, and the societal or the lokik drushtya. And from verse number 31 to 33, Shri Krishna discusses the dharmic or the moral angle. In the 31st verse, he says, Swadharmam apicha aveksha na vikampitum arhasi. Arjuna, you are a kshatriya. Do not waver from your swadharma, even though it involves killing your own kith and kin. He tells Arjuna that dharma yuddha is perfectly ethical. In the 32nd verse, Shri Krishna tells Arjuna how fortunate he is to get an opportunity to participate in such a dharma yuddha, which is bound to pave way to Swargadwar or gates of heaven. Because according to the Dharma Shastra, when a person sacrifices his life for dharma, he gets placed in a special heaven called as Veera Swarga. In the 33rd verse, Shri Krishna warns Arjuna that if he does not fight this dharma yuddha, then he will be forsaking his duty and honor, and he will incur the sin of omission of duty, that is vihita akarmanam, which is called pratyavaya papam as per Shastra. Shri Krishna continues telling Arjuna in verse numbers 34, 35, and 36 how people will impute permanent infamy passed on from generation to generation, that is avyayam akirti, and that all the great warriors will think that Arjuna has withdrawn from the war out of fear. And for a kshatriya like Arjuna who has been honored, infamy will be worse than death. Now Krishna is discussing the Laukik Drushtya or the pragmatic worldly angle. Krishna knows that Arjuna has a very strong Rajasic ego and is trying to appeal to this very ego. Some way or the other, Shri Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna to fight the Kurukshetra war. Arjuna is further prodded by Krishna in verse number 37, where he says, killed, you will attain heaven, or victorious, you will enjoy this world and get back your kingdom. Either way, you stand to gain. Tasmat kaunteya uttishtha. Therefore, Arjuna, may you get up and prepare for war. So at all 3 levels, adhyatmic, dharmic, and laukik levels, Arjuna must fight. With verse number 37, the third level of argument, that is Laukik Drushtya, is also complete. Verse 38 is a transition shloka where Lord Krishna concludes his first phase of teaching on Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga and is now introducing the next phase of teaching on Karma Yoga. It is a very important verse. In this verse, Krishna talks about the attitude with which Arjuna must fight this battle. This verse applies not only to Arjuna, but holds true for every one of us. What should be our attitude when one performs Swadharma? Attitude of Samatvam. Krishna emphasizes this value throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Samatvam means balance of mind. It means not being carried away by any situation in life. It is the capacity to remain cool even in the worst crisis. Samatvam is very important because a person's thinking power will be functioning only when the mind is samaha or balanced. Krishna never teaches us how to succeed at all times. He only says you should learn to face both successes and failures. Therefore, sukha, dukkha, jaya, ajaya, mana, apmana, janma, marna, etc. All the pairs of opposites must be accepted and faced equally with samatvam. From verse number 39, Sri Krishna is switching from Jnana Yoga to Karma Yoga. Even though Jnana Yoga is the only means of liberation, everybody is not fit to enter into Jnana Yoga. It requires a certain preparation which is afforded by Karma Yoga. And this serves as a stepping stone for Jnana Yogyata and later on for Jnanam. Jnana Yoga is impossible without Karma Yoga, and Karma Yoga is incomplete without Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga will destroy the shackles and bondage of karma and will give liberation or mukti in form of emotional stability, freedom from anxiety, freedom from sorrow, freedom from depression, which is nothing but samsara. In the 40th verse and in the next few verses, which we will be discussing in today's class, Krishna glorifies Karma Yoga and says, in this field there is no failure, there is no adverse result, pratyavayo na vidyate. Even a little bit of this discipline protects one from the great fear of samsara. Karma Yoga is that way of life which promotes inner growth, as peace of mind does not depend on what you have, but peace of mind depends on what you are. Thank you very much. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Dr. Meenal, for a nice summary of the last class. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Today's class deals with Karma Yoga, and most of the verses, we'll be studying 7 verses today, deal with a sort of a comparison between karma and Karma Yoga. The best summary of the Karma Yoga I have found is in Bhagwan Ramana's Upadesha Sara. In the opening verse, he says is karma tad jadam. There is nothing so great about karma. And in the second verse, he says about the problems or the dangers of a karma. That means if you are doing karma without bringing in the Karma Yoga aspect, what are the dangers? And the words he uses are Kriti mahodadau patana karanam palamasashvatam gati nirodakam. Kriti, work tends to expand in a tremendous progression, almost like a geometric progression. It can become like a great ocean, which means the more successful you are in your work, the more is the demand for your service. Ultimately, you become so busy doing nothing else. And he says, Patana Karanam, your work can be the cause of your downfall. Bhagavan warns us, Palama Sashvatam, whatever you get through your work is impermanent and it blocks your spiritual path. Gati Nirodakam. So what is the answer? Bhagavan says the answer is Karma Yoga. Can you transform your work into worship? And it is summarized in verse 3 like this. Ishwararpitam na ichaya kritam chitta shodakam mukti sadakam. Whatever work you do, right from the time you wake up till the time you sleep, we are doing some work or the other. Bhagwan wants us to transform our work into a worship by doing it as if we are doing it as an offering to God. And when you're doing it, you're giving your 100% best. He also says, don't be affected by the outcome of your work. Whether I'm going to succeed or not, let that not be your concern. Na ichchaya kritam. Let it not affect your performance while you're working. Because it is, after all, decided by the karma paladata, and it is not entirely decided upon my work. If you are able to do that, what happens is the artha-kama, the inner instrument of my mind, is now processed. It is purified. Chitta shodakam. It becomes available for Brahma Vidya, Mukti Sadhakam, and that is a wonderful summary. We will begin with the opening verse, verse 41, will be explained to us by one of our youngest participants, Viksha. Over to you, Viksha.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kuru nandana bahushakahyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Next slide, Doctor. Attachment is a function of the mind. Its manifestation is that the mind repeatedly runs towards the object of its attachment, which could be person, sensual objects, prestige, bodily comfort, situations, and so on. So, if the thoughts of some person or object repeatedly comes to the mind, it is a possible indication of the mind being attracted to it. However, if it is the mind that gets attracted, then why is Sri Krishna bringing the intellect into the topic of attachment? Is there any role of the intellect in eliminating attachment? Next slide. From this shloka onwards, Sri Krishna begins to provide Arjuna with a practical toolkit of techniques that would enable him to conduct his swadharma with equanimity of mind. This shloka explains the first technique in his toolkit, which is maintaining constant focus on the goal prescribed in the Gita teaching. Throughout the days, we humans control our mind with the intellect. Next slide, Doctor. While sitting at home, we adopt informal postures in which the mind finds comfort. Yet, we adopt appropriate formal postures while sitting in the workplace. It is not that the mind enjoys the formality of the office. Given its way, it would rather embrace the informality of home. However, the intellect decides that formal behavior is necessary in the workplace. So the intellect controls the mind, and people sit formally all day long, following the decorum of the workplace against the nature of the mind. Similarly, consider an example. When we visit the grocery store with a shopping list, we tend to quickly and efficiently get the items on the list and leave the store. We are focused on acquiring the objects in the shopping list. But when we visit the mall or an electronics store, our mind starts entertaining many branched and infinite thoughts. Example, oh, look at this new iPhone. Can I get it at a cheaper price here? Or when's the HD TV coming out? Etc. And eventually, when we end up spending 3 hours in the shop. Therefore, focus is extremely important in any endeavor. Next slide, Doctor. The above examples illustrate that as human beings, our intellect possesses the ability to control the mind. Thus, we must cultivate the intellect with proper knowledge and use it to guide the mind in the proper direction. Buddhi Yoga is the art of detaching the mind from the fruits of actions by developing a resolute decision of the intellect that all work is meant for the pleasure of God. Such a person of resolute intellect cultivates single-minded focus on the goal and traverses the path like an arrow released from the bow. This resolve becomes so strong that at higher stages of sadhana, that nothing can deter the sadhaka from traveling the path. He or she thinks even if there are millions of obstacles in my path, even if the world condemns me, even if I have to lay down my life, I will not give up my sadhana. But those whose intellect is many branched find their mind running in various directions. They are unable to develop the focus of mind that is required to tread the path to God. Now let us assume we focus on one desire to maintain equanimity. Now, how do we know whether we are on the right track? Next slide. To that end, this shloka beautifully gives us a checklist so that we can keep tabs on our focus. At some point every day, preferably at the end of the day, we should ask ourselves 2 questions and write our answers down in a journal. The first question being, what objects, people, situations did I keep obsessing over today? Second question, how many of these obsessive thoughts did I have? If we notice that over time, the quantity of our obsessive thoughts has begun to diminish, it means that our intellect is beginning to focus on the ultimate goal of the Gita teaching. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you, Diksha, for a nice explanation of a very important verse, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Let me quote a famous line from Stephen Covey in his management books, begin with the end in mind. This laid the foundation for a shift in the whole time management. Until then, time management was based on the clock. And Stephen Covey said time management should be based on the compass. Compass means, what is that I really want in my life? Begin with the end in mind means visualize 10 years, 20 years, 40 years towards the end of my life. What is that I really want in my life? This is what is called Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. This Vyavasayatmika Buddhi verse, Swamiji also refers, is the seed verse for the entire Bhajagovindam. The whole of the Bhajagovindam is a question of what is my means and what is my goal, and never to have a confusion between means and goal. And the shift, therefore, is let me not work for success in the world, but let me work for success as mastery in the mind. Once again, on this verse about Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, let me share a little story of a young couple, newly married. And as they were sitting together and discussing how their future would be, what kind of house they would like to have, what are the things, and their dreams went on, and suddenly the man had a big doubt. How can I make all these dreams possible? Because they were a very simple and a couple with a very low amount of earnings. Then he got an idea. This was many years ago before all these international flights started. And so he tells her, see, there is one way I can fulfill all our dreams. I know that if I can work in the gold mines of South Africa, I'll spend a few years there working. I will earn a lot of money. Then we will be rich. She looks at him and says, see, I have you and you have me. That makes us rich. Someday we will have money. Now, this is what is called an abundance mentality. When you have this mentality of abundance, the way you look at life becomes different. There are many ways to be rich. And one of the ways to be rich is normally we think that artha or wealth alone makes us rich. But if you look at the various purusharthas, then you will see that there are, other than artha purushartha, there is something even higher, like moksha purushartha, that comes and gives me fulfillment in life. Throughout this, let us have a very clear contrast between a karmi and a karma yogi. Now, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi is one who has a vision of moksha in his mind, and he is very clear of what is my final goal, what is my final purushartha, and therefore what are my intermediate goals. Once you are clear that moksha is my goal, for that, what is the means to get it? Now, remember, we are talking about a senior student of Vedanta, and a senior student of Vedanta knows that moksha is possible only for a person who is determined to get moksha. Remember, Bal Gangadhar Tilak had said, freedom is my birthright and I will have it. If even one person can attain to it, I can attain to it. And if I have to attain to moksha purushartha, I should have a certain sadhana for it. I should get jnanam. And to get jnanam, I need a certain prepared mind. So these are the intermediate goals. The prepared mind is possible through karma yoga. Now, this is what is called vyavasayatmika. I want moksha. Moksha is possible only through jnanam. Jnanam is possible through a prepared mind. And a prepared mind is possible only through karma yoga. Karma yoga offers the sadhana. Whenever you go to a great master, this was a story of a certain great saint, Rakhadi Baba, who was originally from Bangalore. He visits the great Saint Bhagwan Nityananda, who had an ashram near Mumbai at a place called Vajreshwari. And as he goes there and he tells him that I want to be your disciple, I want to learn from you. He says, what skills do you have? He says, I know how to cook well and I'm also a wrestler. So he said, see, a lot of disciples come here. There is no place, options for food there. Why don't you start a canteen? So he did not give him any jnanam, although he was a great jnani. For 10 years, Rakhadi Baba worked in the canteen. Every evening he would attend the satsang and from a distant watch Bhagwan give darshan to his disciples. After 10 years, he called him and he initiated him. And he became Swami Omkarananda. Now, this is how to get jnanam, we need jnana yogyata. And once jnana yogyata is available, jnanam becomes very easy. Nilima will speak about 3 verses which deal about the Purva aspect about it. Over to you, Nilima.
Jai Gurudev, we have seen in 39 to 41 verses essence of Karma Yoga. Now, we'll be seeing verses from 42 to 44 verses, the path of Kamya Karma or Karmi. In order to understand these 3 following verses, it's important to know the 3 kinds of human personalities. Sattvic personality, people who are always selfless and whose actions are engaged in welfare of other beings. These benefits of this type of sattvic actions are spiritual growth, inner purity, and jnana yogyata. Second, Rajasic personality. These are selfish people who are engaged only in selfish actions. They benefit materialistic life, but with a very little progress in spiritual growth. Third type, Tamasic personality. These people are not only selfish, but also doesn't mind to harm others to attain their goals. They benefit materialistic life, but they are pulled down in spiritual life. Happiness and peace attained by Rajasic and Tamasic actions are temporary. Sattvic actions alone lead to permanent peace and happiness. What we are alone matters, not what we possess. In the 3 following verses, Lord Krishna criticizes a Rajasic actions or karmi. Let us see the verse. The misquoting of scriptures. 42nd verse. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipashchitaha vedavadarata partha nanyadastiti vadinaha. Yamimam pushpitam vacham. That speech which is flowery, pravadanti avipaschita, is uttered by the unwise, vedavadarata, delighting in the sweet words of the Vedas. Partha na anyad asti iti vadinaha. O Partha, saying there is nothing else. Meaning, next word. O Partha, unwise people who are enamored by the Vedas and who hold there is nothing else higher than heaven to be attained, speak these flowery words. Next slide, sir. Avipaschita, who are indiscriminate people who don't have vyavasayatmika buddhi, with no higher aspiration than sense pleasures. Pravadanti, they spread their philosophy that there is nothing higher than kama and karma, desire and selfish actions. They even quote Vedas or scriptures which have a complete knowledge of human life, both material and spiritual aspects. Vedas are meant primarily for the liberation of the soul, and secondarily teaches the art of success in material life. But these people who are selfish and materialistic Yamimam pushpitam vacham, with their attractive words, say that na anya iti asti. There is nothing higher than materialistic accomplishments. Next slide, sir. Vedavadarataha. Vedvadarataha. They misquote the scriptures, focus only on karma kanda aspect of Vedas and ignore the Jnana kanda, Vedanta portion. Even after death, they desire only heaven. Next slide. Next slide, sir. Gita warns the devotee, anyone who desires heaven other than oneness with the God is in delusion. So only company of the people is very important. Shankaracharya in Bhajagovindam says, Satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan mukti. Only with the right company, satsangatve can lead to nissangatvam, which again leads to nirmohatvam, which in turn leads to nischalatatvam and finally leads to jivan mukti. One need to be very careful to choose the right people and take advice only from the wise. Continuing with the same thought flow, 43rd verse, pursuit of pleasure. Kamatmanah swargaparaha janma karma falapradham kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya gatim prati. Kamatmanah swargaparaha, full of desires, having heaven as their goal. Janma karma falapradham, they pursue the rewards of their actions, which leads them to new births. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam, they plunge all their efforts into specific deeds. Bhoga Aishwarya Gatim Prati, for the attainment of pleasure and lordship. Meaning, those who are slaves to passion and who consider heaven as the highest goal that result in rebirth as the fruit of action and prescribe many specialized rituals for the attainment of enjoyments and prosperity. Next slide, sir. Such people who are kamatmanaha, with full of desires, swargaparaha, having heaven as their goal, while alive, they keep engrossed in sense pleasures, and even after death, they desire only heaven, which is the most glorified place for sense pleasures. But all the desires can never be fulfilled. For fulfilling desires, they engage themselves in an endless stream of actions, sometimes even with special rituals. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. One action will lead to another action and one get into whirlpool of actions. The unfulfilled desires are bound to bring frustration and anger in their wake. And unfulfilled desires automatically pull their soul back again to another birth. Janma Karma Phala Pradham, to obtain opportunities to fulfill desires. In Bhajagovinda, Shankaracharya says, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jadare Shayanam, Iha Samsare Bahudustare, Kripaya Pare Pahi Murare. For Rajasic people, their focus is only on two things, artha-kama, money and pleasures, and they work hard only for Bhoga Aishwarya, to accumulate wealth and enjoy the maximum amount of pleasure and lordship. Next slide, verse 44. The result, addicted minds. Bhogaishwarya prasattanam taya prahruta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhihi samadhau na vidhiyate. Bhoga Aishwarya prasattanam, for those who cling to pleasure and lordship. Taya aprita chetasam, whose minds have become addicted to them. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi, none of these are determinate and resolute. Samadhavna vidiyate, meditative and tranquil or studious mind. Meaning, for those who pursue pleasure and power exclusively, whose minds are robbed away by these flowery words of ignorant, well ascertained understanding does not take place in their mind. Next slide, sir. Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam. Not only they talk about artha-kama for others, but they are totally involved in it. Taya aprita chetasam, totally attached to artha-kama alone, their sense of conscience, sense of discrimination, sense of honesty, all of them will go away. And for such people, vyavasayatmika buddhi na vidiyate, Means they do not have a clear priorities of life. They are not very sure about the goals of life. Next slide, sir. Samadhi thus means the mind that is well disciplined or well trained. Such a mind alone is suitable for steady contemplation and eventually to enter the state of samadhi or total abidance in the self within. A mind which is scattered towards numerous desires, a mind or intellect, whether there is no clear thinking at all, cannot have the holding power to stay concentrated in meditation. It is impossible for such mind to be fixed in samadhi. Thus, Krishna has criticized selfish, materialistic, rajasic people who can never become karma yogis, which is proved by all these three verses. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Nilima, for a nice explanation and chanting of these three verses. These verses give us a contrast between a karmi and a karma yogi. Normally, we are not very clear about the definition. Anybody who's hardworking, who's highly accomplished, people talk as he's a karma yogi. We see a lot of such people. They are attracted to material successes. They are busy all the time planning, all the time working. No time for any religion or spirituality unless it is a means to enhance some related work. These are the highly successful people, highly accomplished, very rich, very powerful, extremely productive. They are responsible for giving us all the big institutions and so on. But in their own life, you will see they are always highly strung, extremely rajasic, very stressed, and very subtle ego or a very pronounced ego because they have seen what they have been able to accomplish. We have heard the saying that nothing succeeds like success, but in a spiritual angle, this is totally different. It is said nothing fails like success. Why? Because when you have so much of success, you are not able to see what are we here primarily for. As we have seen in Viveka Chudamani, when we have the gift of being a human being, we are here for something higher than just to make name or be very successful in this world. The Mundaka Upanishad verse, which comes again and again to my mind, is a reminder of this. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmana. A wise person stops some time to investigate what is that I have really accomplished. You remember, if you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got. More and more of the same thing. But if a person evaluates, you will see you attain to nirvedyam asti, a kind of vairagya. And why he attains to vairagya, the wisdom dawns that what I really want is the infinite. Nasti akrit kritena. Through my finite efforts, the infinite can never be attained. And then you see people who have attained to the infinite. Tat vijnartham, when such a wisdom dawns in a person's mind, sa gurumeva abhigachet. Now this is the 180-degree turn from what you normally do. You turn to a person who has attained. Now you don't go empty-handed, you go with Samitpani. Samitpani represents all my past, my ego. And in the Havan of the Guru, I drop it, symbolically dropping off my past. And I go to a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru. Swami Dayananda has given these quotes. He says, one needs to have clarity about what is our priority in life. As far as Purushartha, you should have Nischaya. If you are not clear about your goals, if the infinite is not in your destination, then you're left with infinite desires. The Vedas can be divided into the Veda Purva part and a Veda Anta part. A person who is wise will know how to make a proper use of the Veda Purva. Otherwise, it becomes religious materialism. When you use the Veda Purva for worldly means, but Krishna says an intelligent person is one who is able to use Veda Purva for Jnana Yogyata. If you do not do that, the spiritual fire will never be ignited, and karma has a means of propagating more punya, more papa, and samsara will continue. The next and a very key verse will be explained to us by Madhusudan. Over to you, Madhusudan.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvastho Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. The Vedas deal with the three attributes. Be you above these three attributes, which is also gunas. O Arjuna, free yourself from the pairs of opposites and ever remain in the sattva, goodness, freed from all thoughts of acquisition and preservation, and be established in the self. As you would see in the next chart, after talking about the Gnana Yoga, which is the direct means of liberation, now Krishna is going to talk about Karma Yoga, which is for preparing the mind for Gnana Yoga. If a person's mind is prepared for Gnana Yoga, he does not require Karma Yoga. But if the mind is not yet prepared, a person has to go through Karma Yoga. And in this 45th verse, which we are seeing, Krishna gives the basic principle of Karma Yoga. He puts the foundation of Karma Yoga and also how a Karma Yogi looks at his life and his goal in life. Lord Krishna is here advising Arjuna, a representative of the evolvers in the community of a mankind, to transcend himself, the triad of gunas. Swami Chinmaya gives the example. Here, if there is an alloy constituting copper, zinc, and tin, and the pot is made of that alloy, then to remove the tin, zinc, and the copper from the pot is to destroy the pot completely. Lord Krishna puts it in a different words when he says, Arjuna, transcend the gunas. He advises, instructs as to how one can go beyond these instinctive temperaments in man, namely inactivity, sattva, activity, rajas, inactivity, tamas. The second line in the stanza gives us a very practical and direct method of transporting ourselves from the realm of imperfection to the boundless regions of bliss and beatitude. First, he said, Traigunya Vishaya. Vedas do talk about a lot of activities for the fulfillment of artha and kama. Artha here means wealth. Kama means pleasures or entertainment. And then Krishna says, Nistraigunyu bhava. No doubt they are necessary, but more than that, we the human being are born for some other higher purpose. And that higher purpose is the inner growth. As you would notice in the next chart, Lord Krishna says, Nirdvandvo bhava. And even if you reduce your kamya karmas, we are going through the pairs of opposites known as dvandvas, like mana, apamanaha, labha, nasta, jaya, apajaya. And if you have to withstand all these, you require another important guideline to be followed. Nitya sattvasto bhava. May you maintain your sattva guna. Sattva guna stands for Viveka Shakti. Viveka Shakti stands for discriminative power. Hence, maintain your discriminative knowledge. So this awareness that dharma-moksha are more important is called Nitya Vastu Vivekaha. How we attain this? Through satsanga. As we all know, as Shankaracharya has said, satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam. Continuing further, Krishna explains niryoga kshema, another important concern that we all have about yoga and kshema. Worried about the basic needs of life for survival, apraptasya praptihi, acquiring those things which we do not have, food, clothing, shelter, medicine, so on and so forth. And kshema means having acquired the need for our security, I am worried about preserving them. Remember this one in sloka, as you would hear further, ananyas chintayantoma yejana paryupasate. Therefore, Swamiji goes on to say, have your local yoga kshema, nothing wrong, like LIC, but be aware that the real yoga kshema is the Lord's alone. This is only way to drop your worries. Niryoga kshemaha bhava. And finally, Atmavan Bhava. Atmavan here means to be alert in your life. Do not be carried away by circumstances. Do not lead a mechanical life. Let your life be a deliberate one. Shankaracharya writes Apramattaha Bhava, which is also do not be careless, so be alert. In Vedanta Shastra, it is called Chittaha Samadhanam, being aware of the goal. So, this is the sign of a karma yogi. This is the attitude of a karma yogi. This is the outlook of a karma yogi. Arjuna, you also be a karma yogi. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madhu. You have given a nice explanation. And yet I would like to emphasize a few things. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Here, when we are talking about the Veda Purva aspect. The Veda Purva aspect deals with a lot of rituals and bhakti. There is one problem which we have said, that the more we are involved in the Veda Purva aspect, it will perpetuate samsara. The Veda Purva contains a lot of kamya karmas. That means if I do them, I will be worldly successful, and there will be a lot of these prayaschita karmas. Now, Krishna wants us to drop all of them and evolve, as in the 7th chapter said, drop that artha bhakti, artha bhakti. So, from the Veda Purva, go to Nistray Gunyo Bhava, to go beyond to Veda Anta. Of course, as nicely explained, don't be caught by those two opposites, nirdvandva. All the time be anchored in sattva or in sat, in truth. And let the focus on yoga and kshema, constant acquisition and preservation of what you have, let that not be a focus. The next and an important verse again will be explained to us by Kirti. Over to you, Kirti.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, chapter 2, verse 46. Yavan artha udapane sarvatah sampluto dake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. The meaning: whatever purpose is served by a small well of water is naturally served in all respects by a large lake. Similarly, the Guna Brahmana who has attained moksha and dwells in the knowledge of absolute truth knows that this also fulfills the purpose of the Vedas. So far in this chapter, Sri Krishna tells a grief-stricken Arjuna who does not want to fight this war that his attitude does not befit a Kshatriya, and teaches him through various arguments of Sankhya Yoga, Atma Jnana, Buddhi Yoga, and Karma Yoga to do his duty and fight the war against adharma. Sri Krishna talks about the rewards for a Karma Yogi and hopes once Arjuna sees the benefits of Karma Yoga, that is moksha and infinite ananda, he will put effort to attain this goal to fight for dharma. Swami Paramarthananda says that this verse 2.46 is relevant only to karma yogis who are mumukshus and who want liberation in this life itself. He explains that a karma yogi has vyavasayatmika buddhi, which means he is very clear about the goal of his life, that is, to get moksha jnanam in this life itself. Sri Krishna then points out that once a person is in the path of karma yoga, he would want to use the karma kandas of Vedas for gaining chitta shuddhi, which is a prerequisite for attaining moksha. Sri Krishna tells Arjuna not to be attracted by the Veda Purva section, that is the kamya and parayashchita karmas that propound rules, regulations, ceremonies for material rewards. They only give karma phala ananda, which is finite pleasure, and he would continue to be in samsara. Instead, he should practice nitya, naimitika karmas, which will produce chitta shuddhi, desire for Vedanta Shravanam, enable Guru Prapti and Gnana Prapti to elevate himself to attain moksha. This will give Gnana Phala Ananda, which is infinite pleasure, and he would be liberated from samsara. Swami Paramarthananda explains further, if you renounce karma phala ananda and continue to do karma, it will be replaced by gnana phala ananda in due course. And then by default, karma phala ananda is included in gnana phala ananda. Sri Krishna explains this statement with the example of Udapanaha and Sarvata Samplutodaka in verse 2.46. The word Udapana means a well with some water, and Sarvataha Samplutodaka is a huge overflowing lake of water. The well water fulfills limited benefits only. You can quench your thirst and perhaps have a bath and wash your clothes. The few benefits it provides depends on the weather, and sometimes it may become dry. Here Vedas are compared to Udapanam, whereas a perennial huge overflowing lake can serve the purpose of many wells and provide infinite benefits and fulfillment. One can irrigate vast fields, grow many crops, feed more people, plus can fulfill all the benefits a well provides. Atmagnana and moksha are compared to sarvataha samplutodake. The benefit of the well is included in the benefit of the lake, but the benefit of the lake is not included in the benefit of the well. The finite is included in the infinite, but infinite is not included in the finite. Dharma, artha-kama are included in moksha, but moksha is not included in the other three. Vijanataha brahmanasya sarveshu vedeshu tavan artha udapani sarvata samplutodake. Sri Krishna says, only for a realized person, a guna brahmana, who has experienced the infinite bliss of self-knowledge, moksha, the benefit available in the Vedas is same as the benefit available in a well. This wise man who has attained moksha revels in gnana phala ananda, that is infinite spiritual wisdom and fulfillment, which also includes karma phala ananda by default. Thus, Sri Krishna, by extolling the infinite benefits of moksha state, is encouraging Arjuna to be a karma yogi anchored in its fulfillment, wisdom, and ananda. But a point to remember is Vedas are very useful for fresh aspirants who have just started on the spiritual path to get Jnana Yogyata and Chitta Shuddhi. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Kirti, for a nice explanation of this verse where a person has a doubt. So Shri Krishna has given a nice example of a well and a large lake of fresh water. There is a doubt for a seeker. Supposing I have to go to Jnanam, do I have to give all the pleasures that I get from an ordinary life? Sometimes this happens when people want to dig a well on a riverbed which is absolutely dry because they hope that they will be able to get water there. And when they dig a well and they get water, after some time when the river is flooded, you have the example given here. You have the well, but you have a river that is full of water. And when you have a situation like this, this is the answer that whatever benefits that we get from karma phala is finite, whereas jnana phala is infinite. The message Sri Krishna wants us to give is through moksha or through parama purushartha, you get all the benefits that you would get through artha and kama also. The last and the very important verse for today will be explained by Dr. Sachin. Over to you, Dr. Sachin.
Hari Om, Om Gurubhyo Namaha. This is the most celebrated verse from Bhagavad Gita, with a profound meaning to it and as much important in our life. We know Gita is by the Grihastha, Lord Krishna himself, for the Grihastha, the student Arjuna. A Grihastha is one who is always in action. So knowing the meaning of this verse is going to help us to decide how to act in this action-packed life of ours. The verse goes like this: Karman nevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachanah ma karma phalaheturbhu ma te sango astav karmani. And the meaning is, you have a choice over your action alone, never over the results of the action. May you not be motivated by the results of actions, and may you not have an inclination towards inaction. In the next slide, we'll understand this verse by an example. If you see the student preparing for a board exam, he should be focused on the learning before the final exams. That is his choiceful situation or action. Now consider that the student is none other than us, the karmi or the grahastha, one who is in dual mind. As you see in the next slide, whenever the situation arises, he would be always in this two mind, whether he should go for it or not. And this which eventually trouble his mind and may also lead to wrong action. Just as we see in the next slide, the student may have no idea what the paper would be like tomorrow. The next slide, please, sir. But he is so overwhelmed with the result of its action, which is but naturally negative in his mind, that he might start contemplating that I should totally skip the exams and give that exam after 6 months or so. This is the story of a student. But I wonder if there are some listeners today this story might be familiar with them too. In this slide, we see that Krishna wants to let Arjuna, the student, understand that he is not standing in some normal war, but he is in a dharma-yuddha. And as we see, he says that he has only choice towards his adhikara, the action, and to the duty. But like the student who is Arjuna here, he has choice to fight. And as a Kshatriya, you know, the right action would be to fight in the war, to prepare himself both physically and mentally to fight the dharma war. Krishna also says we don't have the choice over the results of the action, meaning who is going to win the war and who is going to be defeated in the war is not our choice. Further, he also cautions us that just because you feel you have no choice or you're choiceless, do not run away, do not be asanga. Here, many of us who might have a doubt that if there is no choice for our results of the action, then why do we have to do the action at first place? It's my fate and not my free will. That's what we all might think. Swamiji has elaborated on this, but I will concise this by saying that my efforts while doing my duties is like a journey which I take, which I choose to with my free will. And rest, what's my destiny, is going to be decided by lots of factors during this journey, isn't it? And that's collectively called as my fate. A person winning a medal in an event has lots of factors behind him, which we don't see. And the person who loses also, with a millionth of a second, has a lot of factors which we don't see. But that doesn't stop from both of them to compete in the next event. As in the next slide, we'll see one more example. In the recent corona pandemic, getting vaccinated and wearing a mask can be taken as our free will. But will one get infected or not, even after taking a vaccine, is our fate. As we all know, it depends upon so many factors which we don't have control on. In this shloka, we see the next slide with one more important lesson to understand for us is in the third portion of this stanza, which says, Ma karma phal hetur bhur. Don't let your results of the action motivate you. We can learn this from the nature's lessons. As you see, the smaller bird is feeding the cuckoo's chick, just as its own chick, selflessly and not with the motivation of its result. In the next slide, we can take the right meaning of the Lord Krishna's teaching through this verse. I personally feel, and even Swamiji has distinctively explained us, take every action or every duty as your free will and the results as your fate. But while doing so, don't hesitate by the results in your mind, or else you may find 1,000 reasons to not to do your duty at all. So all the students, the message is loud and clear. Right action is surrendering to the Lord all the results of your action, good or bad, not letting the slightest attachment of the results worry you, and not running away from your duties. And in the final slide, sir, to remember such a profound verse, Krishna gives 3 warnings here actually. Karmannevadhikaraste is, we all know, you have choice over your action. The next slide. And ma is coming 3 times in it. Ma means no. So ma phaleshu kadachina, no choices over the results. Ma karma phala hetur bhur. Again, ma means not to be motivated by the results. And the third warning is mate sango astava karmani, not to run away from the duties. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin, for an explanation of a very popular verse which is often quoted from the Bhagavad Gita. And you have given us a very right explanation about it, that we have only a choice about our action. That is what, if you can divide it into 4 quarters. Karmanya va adhikara. Adhikara here means the choice or the free will as to my actions. Ma phaleshu kadachana. The outcome of my action is not under my control because it is multifactorial. There are so many factors related to that. So let that not be the focus. The third quarter, ma karma pala hetu bhur, which means let my performance as a karta not be affected by the bhokta. The bhokta in me is wondering, what will the outcome be? And if that is happening, my performance will become affected. And to the extreme extent, it may go to that last line. Then if you feel that, if I have no choice over the outcome, what is the point of doing anything? So let me not go into inaction. Inaction here means, let me not avoid action just because I'm not sure about the outcome of my result. Swami Paramarthanandaji has given us a very important advice, which is extremely difficult to follow, but I have taken it as SP from my guru. SP means 2 things. Swami Paramarthananda said, and SP also means no special prayer, no sakama prarthana. If you are going to be a karma yogi, that means if I have an important task, if I have an important operation, if I have an important patient to take care, normally whenever there is something important, you pray for that event, you pray for that situation to go well. What are you doing? You're trying to advise God on the outcome. That means you do not have the confidence. Swamiji says if there is one prayer, whenever you do a special prayer, it only enhances your ahankara and mamakara, and that you are clearly demonstrating you're not able to trust the will of God. If there is one prayer, ask for the universal prayer. Ask for Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, which will bless your patient, which will bless your activity also, because Sarve Bhavantu includes me also. Also, there is one more important aspect about this, not having to make any special prayer, because whenever we make any special prayer, you're trying to overrule the will of the Lord, enhancing your own ahankara and mamakara. And if there is one prayer, Swamiji says, ask for the strength to be able to accept the will of the Lord. And that is the true attitude of a karma yogi. Our next class will be just a few days ahead on the 28th of May. We will be discussing 7 verses 48 to 54. These are some of the most important verses on Karma Yoga, and that you will see such beautiful verses in the 2nd chapter about Karma Yoga being Samatvam Yoga Uchate. Another verse which talks about Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam. The real skill in action is how you're able to do your karma without incurring punya or papa, and therefore you will be able to achieve Janma Karma Vimur Muktaha. when you are able to apply wisdom, when you do your action as a karma yogi, karmajam buddhi yuktaha, you are free from all these. Then comes that famous Sthita Prajna part where Arjuna asks Sri Krishna about who is the Sthita Prajna. We will conclude today's class by chanting of these words, and it will be done for us by Vani Bhaskar. Over to you, Vani.
व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिः एकेह कुरु नन्दन बहुशाखा ह्यनन्ताश्च बुद्धयो व्यवसायिनां यामिमां पुष्टितां वाचं प्रवदन्त्य विपश्चितः वेदवादरताः पार्थ नान्यदस्तीति वादिनः कामात्मानः स्वर्गपराः जन्म कर्म फलप्रदां क्रिया विशेष बहुलां भोगैश्वर्य गतिं प्रति भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां तयापाहृत चेतसां व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिः समाधौ न विधीयते त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदाः निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुना निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थः निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान् यावानर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः सम्प्लुतोदके तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः माते संकोत्स्वकर्मणि. Hari Om.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to all the speakers. Thank you, Vani, for the chanting. We need to move from being a karmi to a karma yogi. We are householders. We don't necessarily have to go out and do special activities to be a karma yogi. Rather, what we need to do is convert our daily activity into spiritual activities, selflessly and with our attitude. Karma yoga will help us in Chitta Shuddhi we learned today. It'll make us eligible for self-knowledge, ultimately recognizing the Ananta Ananda. We will not miss out on anything, says Krishna. We have a choice, adhikara, on the actions we do, but we do not have a total choice over its result, as it involves a lot of other factors, and that should not discourage us from doing any action. We will continue with Karma Yoga in the next session. Please log in on Friday, 28th May at 6:45 Indian Standard Time for our next session. Reminder, we will now be having 2 Bhagavad Gita classes per week, Mondays and Fridays, same time. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shantish Shantish Shantihi. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.